Hi everybody, I'm Ian Wright, President of IWS Canada. I'm going to show you today a step-by-step portrait of hockey player Connor Walton for the Windsor Spitfires. I'm going to show you how it's done from sketch to finished painting. Here we go. Now here's the subject matter for my painting, for my demo. It's black and white so I can choose the colors. I'm not going to be distracted by what is there already. Very intent looking hockey player. And here was an earlier version I did as an example. Now this is just on sketchbook paper, so we'll see how this turns out on watercolor paper. Starting with the sketch. Now when we start the sketch, we have to pay attention to the shape and where it's going to be placed on the paper. Now, you want to spend a lot of time measuring if you're not tracing. Some people can trace, and that's a whole other option for you. It's good to get some anchor points, such as the nose, the eye, and from there you can then reference where the rest of the features will go. So at this point, you're doing lots and lots of measuring. The nose to the eye, to the forehead, to the lips, to the chin. Just keep double checking your measurements are correct. At this point, you can still go back with the eraser and do it again. If you make a mistake at this point, it's easy to fix. You don't want to be fixing mistakes once you've laid down your paint. So you want to just keep referencing. Measuring with your pencil. Drawing continuous lines if that helps. Now extra little lines like the helmet, the chin strap, those aid in the finding of reference points. And think of it as in shapes. Focus on the shapes. You're not drawing a nose, you're not drawing an eye, you're drawing shapes within shapes. That makes the referencing much more easy, and the drawing of the shapes, you can see it as a three-dimensional object. Now just keep measuring, keep erasing if you have to, just make sure you get it right, and make sure you get the eyes right. That's the most important part. The most important part of this whole painting is that right eye. That's the first thing we're going to see when we see the painting. So now I'm laying down some masking tape to cover up areas I want to remain white. So that is the edge of the visor. I'll add a few highlights within the visor. Now these things I can just paint around, but it's good to have a backup in case you fill the area accidentally. Now the other option is you could use a liquid frisket. However, that can get messy. You've got to wait for that to dry. If you have a more organic line you're trying to create, that's a good idea. Leaves, flowers, things like that. In this case, it's a very straight line, inorganic line. So masking tape is good for that, to create a nice straight line. It's also good for buildings, the edge of a roof, sidewalk, anything that has to be inorganically straight. So now the first bit of pigment I'm laying down the brightest areas just to get those centered, get a focal point set up. Now, sometimes I lay down a wash first, but in this case, I'm going to go for a very striking color palette that will get people's attention. As you can see, the brightest colors are around the eye and the nose, the center points of the portrait. Well, there's less vibrant colors further to the right. Of course, anywhere there's more blood, like in the cheeks, that should have some nice bright red, and then the yellow to create a balance with that and create some highlights. Some nice cool cyan underneath the chin. If I get too much pigment, I'll go in with a dry brush and just absorb what is there. It's also good to have a paper towel handy. Now these cool colors, they will complement well the warm colors on the face. So I have these in the back of the helmet, the front of the visor, and a few little brush strokes further up. So the blue in the eye is a good complement to the magenta in the rest of the face. Now I put a little bit too much orange down there, so I just sopped it up with a paper towel. Now lower down, I want to get nice swooping brush strokes, very expressive brush strokes to make it look nice and loose. You don't want to overdo it in these areas that aren't the main focus of the painting. Now later on, I will chisel out the background with a nice cool color to accentuate the warm. Here are the warmest colors in the whole painting, the red jersey further down. And that's why I'm going to have a blue background to balance with that red jersey. Now he plays for the Windsor Spitfires, which is a red jersey team. I'm going to include the lettering on the helmet, but very loosely. We don't want that to be the main focus. We don't want to spend too much time making anything look inorganic when our brushstrokes are very organic. Now I'm creating a water pool in which to add the paint. As you can see, as soon as I add the blue, it flows into the area where I laid down the wet water areas. And getting nice, rich blue and chiseling out the features on the left-hand side. A few lines to create depth. Now these areas at the back, we really want them to recede into the background. So I've made them extra dark. Just the suggestion of an eye on the left as it's cut off by the visor. Now I'm going to let it dry a bit. A few bits of clear water for texture. Smooth out that wash a little bit. Now I'm going to get the hairdryer and speed up the drying process. Now I want to make sure it's extra dry before I do anything more with it. The next pass is going to be the more sharp brush strokes, the darker lines. Sharpen up the rest of the details. This is our final pass. This is where we really bring out the areas we want to have focused on. So I have a round brush with a nice point to it. It's got a nice springy quality to it, nylon synthetic. Nylon brushes are great at this stage because they will get a nice sharp tip and spring back. Generally hair brushes for the wash and nylon for the details. The hair brushes will carry more water for large washes, where the nylon brushes will have sharper tips for the details. So I'm going with my finger if I have to and smooth out the paint. It's a little bit too intense in one area. If I want to give it an organic look. I'm refining the line and the shadow, adding a few details. Now I just blotted out the bolts on the helmet because I don't want those as focal points. Those are just secondary details. The eyes is really our focal point. Now I'm getting a nice sharp edge on the visor. I don't want to go all the way around because we want a bit of a white edge to it as well. And the ear area, we don't want too much detail there. We're just suggesting the shape. And the hair as well. It's not very saturated at the back because we don't want to lose the attention of the face in the foreground. A few more extra details in the helmet. Again, we don't want to spend too much time on these because that's not the focal point. Just suggest the shapes. One nice thing with the chin strap is it guides the eye up towards the face. Just darkening the eyebrow a bit here. Adding a few more details on the cheeks, getting a bit more shadow, just to define them a bit more. Now the tonal values is really what I'm focusing on here. Don't think so much about the color, think of the tonal values. So some yellow highlight will go well with the blue, and to bring out the more reflective areas a bit more. A little bit of yellow in the top as well. You have to imagine that there's a light above his head. There I added the Windsor very loosely, just to suggest the team. A bit more definition on the chin. Since we have the light source from the upper left area, then that's going to have a shadow underneath there. Now going in once more, getting a nice dark, chiseled silhouette around the face to really accentuate the features. And balancing that with some yellow, as we have yellow in the upper portion of the face. A few lines in the jersey. Balance out the yellows of the left side with a few on the right-hand side. Loose suggestion of the rest of the visor. In the back here, it doesn't matter if it bleeds a little because we want this a bit blurry. It's not the focal point. This is a loose painting, so we don't need to illustrate every little piece of it. Now I'm just adding the final touches and the signature to finish it off. Thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this demo of Connor Walton of the Windsor Spitfires portrait in watercolor. So there you have it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you learned something, and we'll do more of these shortly. So see you next time.